I still remember the sound, that heavy, impatient pounding on my front door, the kind of knock that doesn't wait for permission. It was the moment my life split in two. Before that knock, I was just an ordinary neighbor. After it, well, let's just say ordinary was gone forever. It was late, close to midnight. I was half asleep on the couch when I heard it. At first, I thought maybe it was an emergency. But when I opened the door, I saw him, Karen's husband, Mark, 6 feet of rage and beer fumes, glaring at me like I'd stolen something sacred. Thought you could mess with my wife and get away with it. He growled. I froze. What are you talking about, Mark? He stepped closer, finger jabbing the air between us. You think I don't know you've been talking to her behind my back? Now, for context, Karen was my neighbor. Kind, quiet, the sort of woman who said sorry when someone bumped into her. We'd talk sometimes, mostly about her garden, or how her husband's temper was getting worse. But I swear there was never anything else. Mark didn't care about the truth, though. His eyes were wild. Not the kind that listened, but the kind that burned. Before I could even react, his hand shot out, grabbed my collar, and slammed me against the wall. I remember the crack of drywall behind me, the smell of his cheap whiskey, the heat of his anger radiating off him. And I remember the look on Karen's face when she ran over. Horror mixed with something else. Relief, maybe, because someone else was finally seeing what she lived with every day. That night ended with flashing blue lights, Mark shouting curses as officers dragged him away, and Karen, trembling beside me, whispering, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far." But that wasn't the end. Oh no, that was just the beginning. Because Mark wasn't the type to let things go. From that night on, he swore he'd teach me a lesson. I thought he meant anger, revenge, maybe humiliation. But the lesson he learned came from a place with bars, concrete, and a whole lot of karma. And believe me, prison had plenty to teach him. 3 months passed before I heard from Mark again. 3 quiet, uneasy months. Karen filed for divorce after the assault. Moved in with her sister, and I tried to go back to my life. Work. Coffee, sleep, repeat. But peace never really returned. Every sound outside at night made my heart skip. Every dark car that slowed near my house made me wonder if he was back. And then one day, it was early morning when I found the message on my truck. A single word, scratched into the paint with something sharp. Soon. That was Mark's style. Intimidation over imagination. I called the police, but they shrugged. No proof it was him, they said. Could have been anyone. Right, anyone who happened to know exactly what soon meant. Karen called me that night, her voice shaking. He's out on bail, she said. He keeps saying he's got unfinished business. Unfinished business, and that's what he called me now. The next few days were a blur of anxiety. I changed my locks, installed cameras, even started parking a block away. But one evening, just as the sun dipped below the houses, I saw him standing across the street, smiling, watching. I remember walking outside, heart hammering, phone in hand, recording. "You need to leave, Mark," I shouted. He laughed in a hollow, ugly sound. "Relax, I'm just here to talk." "You had your chance to talk," I said. "Now go before I call the cops." He took a step forward. "You think they'll save you? You think you can ruin my life and walk away clean? Ruin your life?" I snapped. "You did that yourself." For a moment he looked stunned, as if he'd forgotten that truth existed. Then he lunged. The struggle was fast, chaotic. I fell back onto the driveway, my phone skidding away. But what he didn't know, what I'd been ready for, was that the cameras were rolling. Every second. Every word. When the cops arrived minutes later, thanks to a neighbor who heard the shouting, they saw it all. The threats, the assault. The moment Mark's rage finally crossed a line that couldn't be erased. That footage became everything. It didn't just protect me, it sealed his fate. Mark thought he was teaching me a lesson about fear. But that night, fate enrolled him in a far harsher school, one with locked doors and orange uniforms. The day Mark was sentenced, I sat in the back of the courtroom, half numb. He stood there in a county-issued jumpsuit, chains on his wrists, still trying to look defiant. The judge listed off his charges: assault, harassment, violation of a restraining order, and with every word, Mark's smirk faded a little more. When the gavel came down, giving him 7 years, the sound felt like thunder cracking open the past. Karen wept quietly beside me. It wasn't joy, it was release. After years of living in fear, she could finally breathe again. I thought that was the end of it. But in life, the real endings don't come with gavels. They come with letters. 2 months into his sentence, I got one. The envelope was thin, the handwriting jagged. Inside, a single line. You got lucky, but luck runs out. No return address, but the prison stamp gave him away. I turned it over in my hands, wondering, was this another threat or something else? Over time, more letters followed. Each one started angry, but ended different. Less venom, more reflection. In one, he wrote, "You ever wonder why people like me end up here? Because we mistake control for strength." Another read, "You think prison changes people. It doesn't, but time does." I didn't respond. Not at first. But months later, I sent him a single sentence back. Maybe the lesson isn't about control. It's about consequence. After that, the letters turned almost confessional. He wrote about the fights, the fear, the realization that inside, he wasn't the biggest monster anymore. He wrote about a man named Darius, an older inmate who taught him carpentry and, in his words, patience. He said Darius told him, "You can't rebuild anything, a wall, a table, a life, until you stop blaming the hammer." That line stuck with me. It was the first time Mark ever admitted fault. A year later, Karen got her own letter. He apologized. No excuses, no manipulation. Just a broken man trying to make sense of the ruins he'd built. I can't say I forgave him completely, but for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt something closer to peace, or maybe pity, because while I walked free, Mark was still learning lessons from within those cold, echoing walls. 3 years passed. I hadn't heard from Mark in over a year, and honestly, I thought that chapter of my life was closed for good. I'd moved houses, found a new job, even started dating again. The world had color again. Real color, not the gray blur of constant fear. Then one morning, an envelope arrived. No return address, but the handwriting stopped my breath. It was his. Inside was a letter, longer than any before. The first line read, "If you're reading this, I've learned my last lesson." He went on to explain how prison had stripped him down to nothing. No ego, no control, no audience. He'd spent 2 years in therapy, not by choice at first, but because it was the only way to get parole consideration. And somewhere in those endless sessions, he'd started to see himself for who he really was. He wrote about the violence inside, the constant tension, the fights that weren't about anger but about pride. He said, "Every man here thinks he's the one in control, until someone stronger reminds him that he's not. I used to be that man. I used to think fear made me powerful." Then came the line that changed everything. "You taught me my first real lesson, that strength isn't about power, it's about restraint. I hated you for it. Then I learned to thank you for it." I sat there, letter trembling in my hands. It didn't erase the fear, the pain, or the scars, but it felt final, like the echo of a storm fading at last. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Karen. Her voice was soft, not sad, but heavy. "Mark's gone," she said. "Heart attack. He didn't make it." There was silence between us. Neither of us cried. Neither of us celebrated. We just sat there breathing, the kind of breath that comes only when something old, something toxic, finally leaves the air. A few days later, another envelope arrived. This one from Darius, the inmate Mark had written about. Inside was a photo of a small wooden box, beautifully carved. "He made this before he died," Darius wrote. "Said it was for the man who taught him his hardest lesson. I keep that box on my desk now. It's a reminder. Not of fear or revenge, but of transformation. Because sometimes, the people who set out to teach you a lesson end up learning one of their own, the hard way. So tell me, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Drop a comment and let me know. And if you've ever seen someone get exactly what they deserved, hit that like button and share the satisfaction. Oh, and if you want more real-life drama, karma, and revenge stories, subscribe and smash that bell icon, because if you don't, you'll miss the next twist, and Mark-level people might just get away again. While you sit there thinking, wait, what just happened? Comment like, and subscribe, or stay stuck wondering how the story really went down.